All right. Okay, let's see. Make sure everybody's in. All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Vera Figueredo. I am Director of Education for Conserve Wildlife Foundation. And we're going to do an information session for the Species on the Edge 2.0 challenge. I'd like to go through all the content first, and then we'll do a question and answer session at the end. So if you have any questions, please document them, and I will give everybody time to ask those questions. All right, so what is the Species on the Edge challenge? It is a conservation video challenge. It is open to all ninth to 12th grade students in New Jersey. Doesn't matter if you're in public school, private school, religious school, homeschool, charter school. If you are within that age range of ninth to 12th grade, you are welcome to participate. The idea here is you create a real world solutions to encourage protection of New Jersey wildlife. And there are cash prizes. So student teams win a cash prize, top three teams, as well as the facilitator that works with each team. How does this work? So the first part of this is you form a team. Each team should be between 2 to 6 students. Keep in mind, like the further up you go, if you end up being a winning team, you do have to divide that prize up with, the higher number of participants. The idea here is you want to choose a facilitator. This is an adult, could be a teacher, a parent, a business leader in your community, a leader of a club or an organization. They're not the ones completing the challenge. Their goal is to be a mentor, there to provide some helpful guidance, is basically the idea there. If you are not a registered team and you're here currently for some baseline information, that is great. I appreciate you being here. Please register by March 3rd. The registration form is on the website itself. Once you get to the Species on the Edge 2.0 page, if you scroll down, you'll see the registration form. Registered teams are going to get content information as we go through. So make sure you register your team. Even if you're not sure you're going to submit a video, you'll at least get the content in case you need it. Once you have your team, once you're registered, choose a species. Choose an endangered species that's specific to New Jersey. On our website, conservewildlifenj.org, you will find a list of, yes, mentors can be registered with more than one team. Um, a lot of the teachers that we currently have registered are, they're facilitators with multiple teams. It's probably multiple classrooms from what I'm looking at. When you choose a species, there is a list, a species guide on our website. There is also a species guide on the dep.nj.gov website. If you go to the Conserve Wildlife Foundation website, you will also find a link in the contest kit to the DEP list, as well as other sources of information as well. Once you have your species, choose a scenario. I'm going to go through some of the scenarios here, not all of them. There's a whole lot of them. They are on the contest kit, so you can go through them. You want to develop a video plan, so assign your team members roles, like a research scientist or an engineer or a policymaker, and then create your script, decide how you're going to direct the video. Is it going to be more animated style? Are you going to be in the field? How are you planning to do that? Next, you want to create your video, and the idea is you want to raise awareness, you want to educate the public about the endangered species, and you don't forget to include the conservation efforts. How do we improve their status? All right, 3 to 7 minutes total of a video. People don't have a lot of attention span, so we want to get the message across and we want to get it across fast. Video submission, that's due April 18th. There will be a Google form. The link is here. However, once registration is done on March 3rd, that link will switch to this Google form submission. All right, so keep that in mind. A couple of disclaimers or a few disclaimers about the video challenge. So there are certain things like we don't want included in the video, and those actions can be deemed ineligible depending on how the video is being judged by the judges. So keep that in mind. So a couple of these, let me just let everybody in. So a couple of these is don't use content that you don't know unless you have permission. All right. So if you're using images, if you're using music, if you're using clips, make sure you get permission. There are stock images, there are stock videos, music that you can access. But if you are using something specific, please give those folks credit for their work. You're going to include credits basically at the end of your video. So you want to make sure that you give those individuals credit because this isn't your original source of information, your original content, that kind of thing. The next thing is please make sure you're not using intimidation, harassment, abuse, discrimination, derogatory or demeaning speech, violence, violent language, threats of violence, symbols directed against another person or group of people. So this is, just be logical about how you're doing this, even like pushing, shoving, people, a slap across the head or something. Don't do that. It's not necessary. It doesn't add any content to your video. So it could disqualify you if you do these actions. Avoid naming any specific agencies, organizations, companies, individuals that you deem responsible for the endangerment of the species. Focus on a specific cause, like habitat destruction, oil spills, marine debris. And when you're doing that, if you're going to suggest a solution, so for example, if your only suggestion is we have to move away from burning fossil fuels, well, guess what? We live in a world that's completely dependent on fossil fuels. So you need to suggest alternatives to the use of fossil fuels. All right, so keep that in mind. Don't just say we have to stop using things. The reality is that's not going to happen. We're just not going to stop using things. But what are alternatives? What are better things? What are more advanced technologies? Things like that that can help be solutions. All right, so I'll go through a couple of the scenarios. Again, these are not all of the scenarios. You can access the rest of these scenarios on the contest kit, which is on the website. So the first scenario, you would be an investigative reporter. Your team is working for a local media news company that wants to run a story about New Jersey endangered species. So your team is going to investigate the facts about the issues and solutions associated with your chosen species, and then your team will report your findings to the public. Your story can be a segment that you would view on a news program or on a podcast. The news segment can include video, photographs, artistic renderings, maps, whatever you think would be useful to your audience. And then your team can consist of an investigative reporter, a research assistant, a camera operator, a technology specialist, anybody that you deem logical to include as part of your scenario. The second scenario is the research scientist. So a research scientist gathers information and uses that research as evidence to make hypotheses, test them, analyze the data, share their findings, draw conclusions, and provide a course of action. So in this case, Conserve Wildlife Foundation is requesting that your team of research scientists investigate a New Jersey endangered species, and they're asking that you identify the dangers to the species and design a plan to help protect them. So your video is more like a conference presentation. So you've got to include some of the review of your data findings. So the presentation, again, it can include photography, it can include artistic rendering, maps, data, anything that you deem necessary. And your team can consist of a research scientist, a data analyst, a media specialist, and again, you can get creative. Anybody who you think would be useful to your video. The third scenario is a group of college professors at a local college, and you've been asked to create a presentation on a New Jersey endangered species to present to a group of community members, local lawmakers, and kindergarten to 12th grade teachers. So your team has to identify the threats to the species and design a presentation for the protection of that species. So your video is basically your presentation to the group. All right, so you want to provide details, you want to provide explanation of the threat, you want to provide your conservation plan. All right, so your team can consist of a professor's teaching assistant, audio-visual producer, again, whatever you think would be logical for your video scenario. The fourth scenario is the engineer. So you're at a town in New Jersey that's actually hired your engineering company because they would like to build a new shopping mall, but they are hearing that there are some local species that they have to consider and maybe add some protection requirements. So they're asking you and your team to design an engineering plan to protect these species. Again, you'll just choose one species. It makes the most sense. So your video will include the presentation to that the group of local government officials about the species, the potential causes of endangerment from building the shopping mall, and a design plan to protect the species. So you can include examples from other shopping centers that have been built anywhere around the world. So you might be able to find some architectural blueprints and things like that that could help you with this challenge. So your team can consist of a primary engineer. You get to choose what kind of engineer you're looking at, an environmental specialist, a videographer, and again, anything that might be logical for your team. The fifth scenario is a policymaker. So the role of a policymaker is enacting legislations, what are the policies, the regulations, and then making sure that those policies are enforced and complied with. So a community activist has informed you that there are species that are in immediate danger and require protection. So your job is to develop a legislative plan to address the concerns and implement the policies to conduct scientific research, monitoring, data analysis, and include an assessment of the effectiveness of the conservation plan that you're going for. So make sure you're including like an outline of specific actions, goals, timelines, that kind of thing. And then your team can consist of policymaker, research assistant, public relations manager, and anybody else you might consider useful to your team. Excuse me. The sixth scenario is an environmental artist. So you're a team of environmental artists and you're planning an exhibit to increase awareness and education for local citizens in your community about protecting a specific endangered species. So the idea here is you're creating an exhibit that showcases the beauty of that endangered species and highlights the importance of conservation and collective action. So the video itself would be a narrated tour. It could be like a walking tour. It could be a digital tour. It depends on how you want to approach it, of whatever the exhibit is that you're looking for. So the idea is you got to depict the endangered species and your solutions in the artwork as well. So keep that in mind. Your team can consist of an environmental artist, an ecologist, video production manager, again, whoever you think is useful. So there are a few other scenarios. If you have a scenario in mind and it's not on this list, that is perfectly fine. I have been contacted by registered teams who have had some creative ideas. Run with it. If it's a good idea, go for it. You can access the contest kit on our website. So you go to our home site, the education and outreach, there'll be a drop-down menu. You'll go to the Species on the Edge 2.0. And when you hit the download the contest kit, it'll actually open up a PDF file. And you can either, save that to a drive, download it, whatever it is, but it'll give you more scenarios if you're looking for other ideas as well. How is this judged? So the rubric itself is located in the contest kit. The way this will happen is you will submit your video. I will share video and this rubric, an individual rubric per video with our judges. They will watch the video and judge to see if your video, consists of all these criteria. So, to get an excellent, what do you need to have, right? Does it excel at including the design brief components? Does it include the detailed explanation of the species, the threats, what your plan is for protection? Is it thoroughly researched? Does it have accurate information about the species, habitat, threats, conservation efforts? Is it well organized? Is it enthusiastic? Does it engage the audience? Is it clear? Does it have like a specific breakdown? Does it introduce the topic? Does it have like the storyline? Does it have a conclusion? Is it using effective visual aids to support their information? Does it demonstrate creativity in the presentation of the information? Is it innovative with its use of the multimedia elements? Does it display a deep understanding of the species, its ecological role, broader implications of its endangerment? Is the information communicated clearly and effectively, right? Appropriate language, terminology. Can the audience follow it easily? Is it a presentation that's easy to follow? Does it demonstrate excellent skills in video production, editing, and presenting? So what ends up happening is sometimes if you edit things and you start to splice things, it has like that weird jumping effect. So, the judges are really going to look at something like that. So try to make it as smooth as possible. Does it captivate and hold the audience's attention? Does it convey a strong message? And does it create a lasting impact? Um, and then is it emotionally and intellectually engaging? All right. So there's more details for each of the categories, the excellent, proficient, basic, limited. It'll tell you like if you got that score, this is why you got that score. So you can access that rubric on the contest kit as well. The video itself should be submitted by Friday, April 18th. Again, it's going to be through a Google form. It'll be up to you to decide where your video lives because you're going to share a link with us. So, for example, we had the question earlier, can one person be a facilitator for multiple teams? Yes. And in that case, if you're, for example, a teacher at a school and you have a YouTube channel, that's an opportunity to load all the videos onto that YouTube channel, and then each individual team can submit their own video. So you have a location. The top three teams that win, we will ask for access to your video, be able to download it, be able to access it, so that we can put it on our website, share it publicly, that kind of thing. All right, so keep that in mind. Let's see. For all teams who are registered, Thursday, March 6th, between 4 and 5:30 p.m., we are going to be hosting a virtual mentoring session with our wildlife biologists. So this is an opportunity to learn what our biologists are doing, what species they're working with, what some of their conservation methods are. And then it's also an opportunity to maybe include some of the content into your video as well. So we'll record that session. We'll make that session available on our website. So if you want to, pull clips from it, you can. Conserve Wildlife Foundation will give you the permission to do that. However, again, in the credits of your video, you will have to give credit to each of the wildlife biologists for, the work that they're providing here. All right. Let's see. So that's pretty much all I have to share. I'm going to stop this share if you have any questions, and I'm going to